They saw her hoodie and a last name and decided both were fake. The business class check-in lines shimmered under ceiling lights that were too bright for 6 a.m. Everyone stood like they knew how this worked. Briefcases, blazers, practiced nods. Then there was her, Ava Ford, 17, hoodie too big, duffel bag slung like it didn't belong. She adjusted the strap on her shoulder once, then again. Not because it was heavy, but because it gave her hands something to do. She didn't fidget. Not really. Just adjusted. The woman behind the counter looked up. Middle-aged, clean makeup. Blazer too sharp for how early it was. Her name tag tilted slightly. Tina. A glance. A smirk. The kind of look that said, "Oh, this should be fun." "Boarding pass?" Tina asked, already dragging out the words like they were too much effort. Ava handed over the printed ticket and her ID in one clean motion. No smile. No explanation. Tina took neither. Not at first. She tilted her head, squinted. "This is for business class." Ava nodded. Alarms didn't go off. No explosions. But something shifted. Tina's tone sharpened just slightly. "You flying solo with that name?" she asked, flipping the ID before Ava could answer. Her nails tapped once on the counter. Ava didn't blink. "Yes." And then Tina laughed. A quiet, sharp exhale that cut just deep enough to be heard by the man in line behind Ava. "Ford, huh?" Tina said, holding up the ID between two fingers. "Let me guess your grandfather's Harrison Ford. What, he flew the plane himself, too?" Ava didn't react. Her expression didn't change, which somehow only made Tina more amused. "Come on," Tina said, leaning forward just a bit. "That's not even a subtle lie. What's next? Your uncle's Indiana Jones." No answer. Ava just waited. But waiting, in places like this, didn't mean nothing was happening, because by now, someone behind her had leaned in. Another had whispered. A third had pulled out a phone, discreet but not hidden. Tina flipped the boarding pass in her hand like she was flipping a coin, then stared back at Ava. "You do know pretending to be someone you're not. That's a federal offense." A pause. "I'm not pretending," Ava said softly. Not defensive. Just factual. But it didn't land. Tina's smile only tightened. "Sure, sweetheart." She tapped the keys below her desk, pretending to scan something. "Let's just have security double-check. You know, routine." Ava's throat didn't tighten. Not yet. But her hand gripped the strap of her bag just a little more. Tina didn't say it, but her face did. "You don't look like you belong here." And Ava, she didn't flinch. "But maybe, just maybe." She stopped breathing for half a second. "Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from today. And if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe." Ava didn't turn around when she heard the footsteps. They weren't running, just firm, predictable. Measured in that way, only people with badges walked like the ground belonged to them. Two security agents appeared at her side before Tina even had to wave. One was tall, with a squared jaw and mirrored sunglasses indoors. The other, thinner, younger, chewing gum like it had insulted his family. "Step aside, miss," said the tall one. No greeting, no context, just procedure. Ava blinked once. "I already cleared TSA." The younger one, Marquez, his badge red didn't care. He blew a bubble, popped it flat. "You've been flagged for random screening." "Random?" "Right." Tina folded her arms behind the desk, satisfied like someone had just won a petty bet. "Let's go," the tall one added, already turning toward a side inspection area just past the velvet ropes. Ava's bag weighed more now. Not physically, but in the way that made her shoulders slope a little. She didn't argue, just followed. The room wasn't a room, really. Just a table under a flickering ceiling panel. It buzzed like it had a grudge. The taller guard stood back, arms crossed. Marquez did the rest. Bag on the table. She placed it down. Step back. She did. He unzipped it, not with curiosity, but with suspicion as if the truth inside had already been decided. Her hoodie came out first, then hand wraps, black and frayed, a sketchbook, 2 protein bars, her backup shirt, a can of muscle spray. "What's this?" he asked, shaking the can like a toy. "For recovery." Her voice barely carried. He smirked. "Could be masking aerosol, could be pressure stimulant. We'll test it." She opened her mouth to say it's just menthol, but thought better of it. Behind her, someone cleared their throat. Another phone lifted. Her notebook, dog-eared, filled with scribbles in blocky capital letters, got the most attention. Marquez flipped through it. Workout logs or coded drop points. Ava didn't answer. It didn't matter what she said. From behind the desk, Tina called over, louder now, like it was a show for the audience. "She told me she was related to Harrison Ford." Can you believe that a murmur rippled from the people behind the barrier? "Ford's granddaughter," someone repeated, just loud enough to echo. "No way." The taller agent picked through the last pocket of her duffel, more carefully this time. His hand paused inside, then pulled something out, a small bundle, cloth-wrapped. Ava stepped forward instinctively. "Be careful," she said, a little too quickly. "Please." He didn't even look up. Just started unwrapping it like it was a joke. And that's when she felt it, something in her chest bracing, like ribs pulled tight around a secret. He peeled back the final layer, and there it was, a white ceramic mug, faded blue lettering, cracked hairline through the middle. "To Ava, aim true." He turned it in his hand, not with respect, just curiosity, like it meant nothing. But Ava, she felt everything, and the mug, it hadn't even fallen yet. The mug didn't look special, not at first. White ceramic, a little off-white now, one side slightly chipped. The lettering almost ghosted from too many washings. "To Ava, aim true." But Ava's chest had already gone tight, like her lungs were trying to shrink around it. "Sentimental junk," the taller agent muttered. "Donahue." That was his name. He turned it in his palm. One finger traced the faint crack like it was a defect in a product, not a fault line in someone's story. Ava stepped closer. "Please, be careful." Donahue didn't answer, just held it loosely, like he was about to pass it off or drop it. Marquez glanced over. "What is it?" A family heirloom. Ava's throat closed. She could have said yes. She could have said, "It's all I have left." But the words stuck like gum under a table. Instead, she just looked at the mug. Not them, not the crowd. Just that curved handle and quiet little inscription. Marquez raised his voice slightly enough for the back row of onlookers to hear. "She said it's from her dad. Maybe she got it on eBay." He laughed. That one stung. Ava's lips parted, but still, nothing came out. Donahue shifted. Maybe to put the mug down. Maybe not. It didn't matter. His fingers slipped. The mug fell. It hit the table first. A dull clack. Bounced once, twice, then rolled. And then the edge caught. It fell again. This time, the tile didn't forgive. A clean, sharp crack. Not loud, not violent, but enough. It broke, not shattered, not exploded. Just broke, quietly, as if it knew it wasn't supposed to survive this far. Pieces scattered near Ava's shoes. There were no gasps, just a shift in the room, a hush that wasn't reverence, it was discomfort, the kind that sticks to skin. Ava didn't think. She dropped to her knees, hands reaching out. She gathered the pieces slowly, one by one, palms trembling. A shard nicked her thumb. Blood surfaced. She didn't react. Not to the pain. Someone behind the rope whispered, "She's bleeding," Marquez barked out. "Stand back," but it wasn't at her. It was at the crowd, like they were the threat. Ava crouched lower, a sliver of ceramic balanced in her palm, faint red line cutting through her skin. It didn't look like much, but to her, it was the last thing she had from a hospital room, from the day they told her her father wasn't coming back. She wrapped the largest piece in the cloth it came in. Her hands shook. "From the desk," Tina called out again, voice bright and fake. "She told me it was from her dad. Maybe next she'll say it pointed north." Someone snorted. Ava didn't answer. Didn't look up. Didn't defend it. But something inside a thread. Maybe snapped. Not loudly, but it snapped all the same. And the worst part, no one even said sorry. Ava stayed crouched for longer than she needed to. The blood wasn't gushing. It wasn't dramatic. Just a thin, clean line along her thumb. The kind that stings hours later, not right away. She pressed it gently to her jeans, trying not to smear. The denim darkened. Above her, the crowd had begun to shift again. Not away, just around. Phones dipped, rose, tilted for better angles. No one offered a tissue. No one moved to help. They just watched. Ava kept gathering the shards. Some were no larger than a thumbnail. One still had the word aim on it. She wrapped it inside the cloth scrap from her bag, folded it like it was sacred. "Seriously," Tina's voice rang out across the terminal again. Louder now, like she'd been waiting for her moment. "What kind of girl carries a broken mug in a gym bag? That part of the orphan act, too." A ripple of soft laughter from somewhere behind the velvet rope. Someone muttered, "She's milking it now." Ava stood slowly. Not fast, not with fire, just upright, her face unreadable, her hands still slightly bloody. Tina stepped out from behind the counter, arms folded. She wasn't finished. "Tell me something, sweetie." Her tone was syrup. "Was the mug from your real dad? Or the one you imagine when you want attention?" There was a pause. That kind of pause that doesn't feel quiet. It feels loud, like the room itself is holding its breath, wondering, will she break now? Ava didn't speak, didn't move, just looked at Tina. Not through her, not around her, at her. In that look, it wasn't defiance. Exactly. More like resignation sharpened into steel. Someone near the back of the line whispered, "She's not lying." A kid, maybe 10, tugged on his mom's coat and asked, "Why are they being mean?" No one answered him. Marquez cleared his throat and stepped forward, maybe to say something. He didn't. Donahue shifted uncomfortably, crossed his arms, then uncrossed them. Ava pulled her bag toward her. The zipper was still halfway open, like a wound no one bothered to close. She slipped the wrapped pieces inside carefully, then closed the bag, slow and deliberate. It scraped against the floor as she lifted it. The fabric was scuffed now, the strap slightly torn, but she didn't try to fix it. She just stood there, in that strange middle place between being accused and being erased. Nobody touched her. Nobody told her to move. And yet somehow it felt like she was being pushed out of the room anyway. As if dignity, once cracked, makes a sound no one wants to hear. She looked down at her hand. The blood had dried in a curve around the cut. It wasn't the worst pain she'd felt that morning, but it was the only one anyone could see. The corridor wasn't much of a holding room, just a stretch of plastic chairs near the baggage claim, under lights that buzzed too loud for how dim they were. The air smelled like floor polish and something old trying to stay sterile. Ava sat at the far end, knees pulled in, bag on the floor beside her, closed now, but bruised like it had been through a fight, which, in a way, it had. The cloth-wrapped shards inside didn't move, but she could still feel them. Every step they'd taken across tile, every echo they'd left in her. She pressed her thumb lightly. The cut stung, but at least that meant it was still there, still real. The guards who'd brought her here had left without saying anything. No charges, no explanation. Just wait here. So she waited. For what? She wasn't sure. She leaned back, then forward again, restless in a way that had nothing to do with comfort. Her hand slipped into her hoodie pocket and closed around the phone. She didn't check messages, didn't scroll, just stared at the screen. The battery sat at 38%, like it too was unsure if it had enough left. At the top of her favorites list, just one name. Gramps. She hesitated. The kind of hesitation that doesn't come from fear of the call, but fear of what the voice on the other end might hear in you. Then she tapped it. The phone rang once. Ava exhaled. Twice. Her fingers tightened. On the third, the line clicked. "Hey, kid!" His voice came through like gravel smoothed by memory. Calm. Low. Familiar enough to knock something loose inside her chest. She didn't speak right away. "Ava," he said again, softer now. "Everything good?" She tried, opened her mouth, closed it. Then, finally, barely a whisper. They broke it. He didn't speak. The compass. From Dad. Her voice caught. They said the ticket was fake. That I wasn't. That I didn't belong. Still nothing from the other end. But it wasn't empty. It was the kind of silence that meant movement. That meant direction was being chosen. They called security. They pulled my stuff out like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. And they laughed. The phone shook slightly in her hand. Or maybe her hand shook the phone. She wasn't sure. They made me pick it up. The mug. In pieces. In front of everyone. She stopped. That was enough. Then finally, "Where are you?" he asked. His voice was sharper now. Not angry. Just pointed. By the glass doors. Near baggage. There was a pause. "Then I want you to listen to me." A beat. Her heart followed it. "Don't talk to anyone. Don't move. Don't touch the bag. You hear me?" She nodded, even though he couldn't see it. "Okay, I'm on my way." Click. That was it. But something inside her, something fragile and shaking, sat a little straighter. Because when the world cracked her open, he was the one person she didn't have to explain the pieces to. The glass doors parted with a mechanical sigh. Nobody noticed at first. People were busy dragging luggage, checking watches, chasing children. The kind of movement that feels important until something bigger walks in. He didn't rush, just entered like he had nothing to prove and everything to end. Harrison Ford, worn leather jacket, gray stubble, eyes like weathered steel that had seen too much wind and too many wars. His boots scuffed the tile softly, like thunder choosing to walk instead of roar. He scanned the terminal without hurrying, without hesitating, and then he saw her, Ava, sitting against the metal rail near the baggage exit, hoodie sleeves past her wrists, bag at her feet, shoulders pulled in like she was trying to shrink out of existence. She looked up, and for the briefest moment, something in her face uncoiled. He walked toward her. Not fast, not slow, just direct. When he stopped in front of her, she didn't stand right away. Maybe she wasn't sure she could. He didn't say her name, didn't kneel or ask questions, just looked at her hands, the dried blood, the fabric napkin with the faint shape of broken ceramic still outlined beneath it. "You okay?" he asked. Ava nodded, not convincingly. Ford looked past her now, at the bag, at the torn zipper, at the creased fabric from where it had been dragged. Then he turned. Two security guards near the inspection table straightened at once. One leaned into his earpiece. The other instinctively adjusted his tie. Charles, the terminal supervisor, was already moving his shoes too clean, his smile too prepared. "Mr. Ford," Charles began, extending a hand like a lifeline. "I want to personally apologize for the Ford didn't take the hand. Didn't even glance at it. Instead, his voice came out low, controlled, like a switchblade being opened slowly. Which one of you made her bleed silence? The kind that makes walls hold their breath? I wasn't present for the screening," Charles stammered, backing half a step without realizing it. There was confusion. She was uncooperative during the Ford raised a hand, not to threaten, just to stop words. "You pulled her out of line," he said quietly, "because of a name and a hoodie." Charles swallowed. "Protocol flagged inconsistencies. Our system. She's 17. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You dumped her bag in front of strangers. You dropped something her father gave her. You let people laugh while she bled. Another pause, longer this time. Phones began lifting again in the crowd. Faces tilted forward. Ford didn't notice, or didn't care. She told you who she was, he said. His gaze was still steady, still unblinking. And you decided that wasn't enough. Charles tried again. Mr. Ford, I assure you, this was never about status. It was simply about confirming identity, and Ford turned to him, finally, slowly, as if to say, you've had your turn. She gave you her name, he said. Yes, but it didn't match the seat you thought it belonged in. Charles opened his mouth, then closed it again. Something in Ford's tone rearranged his courage. From behind the check-in desk, Tina stood stiff, arms folded across her chest. She didn't speak, but her expression gave away what she thought. I was just doing my job. Ford's eyes flicked toward her. Brief. Enough. He stepped forward once. No threat. Just wait. You judged her by a hoodie, he said. I raised her by a compass. Charles blinked. I'm not sure what you mean. Ford didn't elaborate. Instead, he looked toward the inspection table, the open surface where someone had laid her life out like evidence. There's no protocol, he said slowly, that covers humiliation. Silence again, this time heavier. Marquez shifted his weight. Donahue adjusted his sunglasses indoors. Ford's voice didn't lift, but it curved sharper. She didn't fight. She didn't yell. And still, you pulled her in front of strangers, tore through her things, mocked her name. She was flagged, Charles offered weakly. Unaccompanied minor. No frequent flyer profile. The system didn't drop the mug. Ford's words landed like glass on tile. Tina flinched slightly. Marquez said nothing, but his jaw clicked once. Audible. Ford turned now, halfway, addressing them all without singling anyone out. You don't get to erase her because she doesn't look like your idea of someone who belongs in business class? The crowd had grown. Phones hovered like nervous birds. No one said much, but everyone was listening. Ford faced Charles again. Tell me, he said, when she gave you my name, what did you think? Charles blinked. Excuse me, did you laugh? Ford's tone didn't accuse it, dissected. Did you think she made it up that the name didn't fit her? Charles hesitated. It's not uncommon for travelers to embellish claims to avoid downgrade or to get special treatment. She didn't ask for special treatment. Ford paused. Let it hang in the air. She asked to board. Behind him. Ava hadn't moved. She was standing now, but she hadn't spoken since he arrived, her face unreadable, her hoodie sleeve still dark with dried blood. Ford looked over at her briefly, then turned back. You don't get to decide who someone is based on a seat number. He let that settle. Then softer, almost conversational. She wasn't trying to prove her name. A beat. She was trying to carry it. For a moment, no one said anything. Not the agents. Not Charles. Not even Ava, who now stood with her hands lightly clasped in front of her, as if holding herself together was something you did visibly. Ford's words still lingered in the air, stubborn, like dust caught in sunlight. Then came the sound. Soft, deliberate. A cough. Someone cleared their throat behind the barrier. At first, no one turned. Not right away. Not until the voice followed. She didn't lie. It wasn't loud, but it was firm. A bit raspy. Worn in that way voices get when they've spent years talking to themselves more than to others. They turned. A man stood a few feet behind the crowd. Gray uniform. Green cleaning cart beside him. Blue nitrile gloves still on his hands. Samuel, according to the tag on his chest. Just the janitor. Just the guy no one noticed until now. She never raised her voice. Samuel said, he wasn't dramatic about it. Just tired, maybe. Didn't get angry. Just stood there while they laughed. He pointed not rudely toward the inspection table. I was mopping near gate 12 when they pulled her aside. I watched the whole thing, Charles started. Sir, this really isn't. I heard you, Samuel said. Not unkind, but unwilling to stop. All of you. He looked at Tina. You asked if she was pretending. His eyes drifted toward Marquez. You called her things without saying the words. Then at Donahue, you dropped what meant something and didn't even say sorry. Nobody interrupted this time. Ford didn't move. Just let it happen. Samuel turned toward Ava, his expression gentler now. She didn't flinch, didn't fold, just picked it up. He tapped his chest lightly. Some people break loud, some break quiet. She broke the kind of way most folks never notice until too late. The crowd wasn't filming anymore. Not as much. A few people lowered their phones. A woman near the back wiped her eye without fully realizing she had. A boy beside her whispered, "That's the janitor." Another voice said, "He saw everything." Tina's mouth pressed into a line. Marquez looked down. Donahue exhaled through his nose like he didn't want to hear any of it, but couldn't not. Charles stepped forward, unsure. We'll, document the statement. Samuel raised a hand. Tired. No need. I just wanted to say it out loud. For her. He nodded once, to Ava. She didn't cry, didn't move, either. But for the first time in hours, her shoulders dropped just a fraction, enough to breathe a little deeper. Ford finally spoke again, voice soft now. Sometimes truth doesn't come from authority. He looked toward the desk. Sometimes it comes from the person sweeping behind it. The cabin door clicked shut behind them. First class hummed with the muted rustle of leather seats and overhead vents. Citrus-scented air and voices kept deliberately low. Eyes peeked above phone screens, over magazine spines. Some passengers watched them. Most pretended not to. Ava didn't care. Not anymore. She moved down the aisle with her bag hugged close to her side. The zipper had split halfway again. She didn't fix it. Their seats were near the front. Window and aisle. She sat by the window, pulled the tray table down without really thinking, then placed the napkin-wrapped bundle in her lap. Ford slid into the seat beside her, his jacket creaking softly as he settled. He placed his carry-on beneath the seat like a man used to flying without fuss. He glanced at her hands, still bleeding. She shook her head, a small, slow motion. The scab was already forming, but the sting was deep. Not in the skin. He didn't ask for permission, just reached into his jacket and pulled out a handkerchief. Old cotton, folded neatly, slightly frayed at the corners. Let me see. She hesitated, then slowly, without a word, opened her palm. He cleaned the wound carefully, steady, like he was holding something fragile, not the skin her. Ava didn't speak until the cloth was wrapped loosely around her thumb. They didn't care, she said, voice small. They just threw everything. Ford didn't look at her. Not yet. I thought if I stayed calm, if I didn't push back, maybe they'd believe me. He leaned back in his seat, one hand on his knee, the other resting near the armrest. You shouldn't have to fight just to be seen, he said. Her lips pressed together. They made me feel like I wasn't real. That sat there for a second, long enough for the hum of the engine to creep in around the silence. You know who else used to say that, he asked quietly. She turned toward him. Your father? Her breath caught, but she didn't interrupt. There was a fire, downtown. Apartment complex, 3rd floor. He was off duty, just walking home. Night crew hadn't arrived. People were screaming from the windows. Ford's voice stayed low, like the memory itself was fragile. He ran in, pulled out 4 people, 2 old men, a mother, a kid. He paused, then went back in for the 5th, a longer pause. He didn't come out. Ava looked down. The napkin in her lap had loosened slightly. A piece of the broken mug curved outward, still bearing the word AIM. He didn't die because he was reckless. Ford said. He died because he couldn't stand the thought of someone being invisible. She pressed her fingers against the napkin bundle, gently, like it might dissolve. I didn't know that. Ford nodded. You carry his name, but more than that, you carry his fire. Her voice cracked. It's broken. He looked at her now. Direct. That doesn't mean it's lost. The plane had already left the ground. Engines hummed steady beneath their feet. A kind of background heartbeat that no one listened to, unless they were trying not to cry. Ava leaned slightly toward the window. She wasn't watching the city fall away. She was just looking through it, like there was something further out, beyond clouds, that might explain how you survive humiliation and keep breathing. Ford sat beside her, arms crossed loosely now, jacket unzipped, not asleep, just still. In her lap, the napkin had unfolded. The biggest shard of the mug sat exposed. Faint lettering still curved along its edge. Aim true. She didn't tuck it away this time, just let it lie there. Ford glanced over, noticing, but he didn't comment. She beat him to it. I thought, she said softly, that if I just stayed quiet, if I didn't cause trouble, people would believe me. Ford didn't look surprised. He just nodded once. A lot of people think that. She shifted. Maybe I didn't want to make it worse. You didn't, but I didn't make it better either. He leaned forward slightly, pulled out a small bottle of water from his jacket, handed it to her. It was warm from being carried. Real. She took it, unscrewed the cap, and drank without thinking. Then, after a pause, I let them take everything. My name, my voice, that mug. Ford tilted his head. You didn't let them take it. She looked at him. You carried it through. That landed somewhere. She didn't reply. Not in word, but she didn't look away either. After a beat, her voice dropped, almost playful, but tired. Why'd you come on the flight? He shrugged. Didn't like the idea of you flying alone. Not after that. She almost smiled. I'm sorry if I made things harder, she said. You didn't make trouble, he replied. You were in trouble. There was quiet again, but not the same kind. Then, her voice soft. Unsure, I know I'm not really. I mean, Dad was adopted. I'm not blood. Ford didn't blink. Don't finish that sentence. She froze. He didn't soften it, but he didn't need to. You're mine. Not because of blood. Because I chose you. Because I see him in you, and I see you. A breath caught in her chest. She nodded, but her eyes were shining now. He nodded too, like that was settled. Then looked down at the mug piece again. You gonna hold on to that the whole flight? She glanced at it. I will. Why? She looked at him, then down again. Because it's broken, but it still points north. He leaned back into his seat, satisfied, not proud, just at peace with what hadn't been taken. Outside the window, the clouds spread wide like they'd been pulled apart to make room for one more story. And Ava sat straighter, not healed, but seen. If you enjoyed this story, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories.